I want to know something. BJ Penn, one of the greatest to ever do it in the UFC. You got to walk me through the story. This guy goes and gets the belt. You're with him. How'd you meet him? What is the relationship with you and BJ Penn?
BJ's one of the closest dudes in my life, man. I mean, he has, everybody, distance will make you kind of disconnect a little bit, but BJ would fucking. I met BJ back early days. LA Boxing is where I met him. I had worked with him for a couple weeks. I think he was fighting Carlos Uno or somebody out. I don't know if it was that Pride or was that was K1 maybe, or it might have been UFC.
Yeah, I think it was UFC.
Yeah, it was UFC. Yeah, because he had a few fights out of UFC, but not many.
The one where he knocked him out with the flying knee.
Yeah, I think it was around then.
And then he folded him against the cage and he hit him a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Carl Uno. Something
yeah,
like
I think that was
in the
around
UFC.
that time.
Yeah,
but we weren't working together. He just came out because LA Boxing again. There wasn't a lot of gyms around there in Orange County, and he came in there and he had just started working with Pat with Ruka, I believe.
Oh yeah,
and kind of knew him, hit it off, whatever. A year or 2 years later, so time went by. I had stopped. I had some physical issues with myself, so I wasn't really focusing on fighting myself, and I was training people. I had always been training people. That's what I did to make my cash. And he was fighting Jens Pulver. He was rematching Jens Pulver. I think he lost to the Jens the first time. And to be honest with you, back then my plan was that I'm going to train MMA fighters now the rest of my life. But this was kind of the I had already worked with MMA fighters. I had already worked a UFC fight and did some of this, just but not to where this is what I do. Pat asked me to go out to Hawaii to work with him for the Jens Pulver fight because Jens was kind of more of a boxer, I think, back then, or considered more of a hands guy. So I went and stayed with BJ for 5-6 weeks or something like this, and trained. Fight went well. I think the main game plan for that was just kind of go off the jet. Because when I first went out there with BJ, I mean, I worked with him a little bit down here, but I went out there, I went, holy shit, like. It's a trip because boxers, especially back then, even further back then, but back then, even though you kind of look like these guys can't fight, you know what I mean? These guys, what the fuck? But knowing what I know now is like a boxer doesn't realize what they're talking. I mean, as far as they don't know what they can get themselves into.
Yeah.
Sure. If you can control the range and just beat the shit out of them, sure. But if this fucker grabs you by your toe and pulls you to the fucking ground.
Why you say toe?
You know what I mean?
He said Rampage got a big toe.
He grabbed you by the toe, pulls you to the floor. He's gonna fuck you 6 weeks from Sunday. You know what I mean? So, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's like you don't realize that, but we're neither here nor there. So I go out there and I'm fucking, I'm watching. Wow, fucking, wow. You know what I mean? It's interesting that it of course, he's the prodigy too at the time. I mean, it's always been kind of his name. So I'm just trying to figure out this whole fucking deal. Like, okay, I mean, this is a sport. I had been around it, but I'm like, okay, go in the fight. He does well, wins, and at that time I was going through. But I don't want to go off subject. I'm not going to. But I had a whole lot of personal drama going on in my life. So I just went and moved to Hawaii. Not moved, but I went out there and stayed there for a significant amount of time. I went out, moved in with BJ for his title fight against Joe Stevenson, and lived with him for maybe 4 or 5 months while I was out there. I was able, at the time, there was Aloha Airlines, which his family had tons of airline points for Aloha Airlines, so they could fly me back and forth a little bit. I was, I'd come back here and there, but I was living with him, and we were training on a 24-hour period basis for years.
How was that living with BJ? I bet that was cool in Hawaii.
That's what I think developed our friendship too. At the end of the day, because now that he doesn't fight, we still have there's a bond that you're gonna have with somebody when you live that life experience with them, and it was great. Hawaii. I mean, in Hilo, Hawaii is a whole different animal than Hawaii, in my opinion. It's like, it's a fucking trip. I mean, it's beautiful. You know what I mean? But it's a whole different, it's really, you have to go spend a significant amount of time and realize you're in another world. I mean, and I don't mean that, and by no means is that negative. It's beautiful. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. At the time, back then, I would say to myself, God, I could really just, retire here or stay here or be here or live here, but you disconnect from the bubble, from the Orange County fucking just chasing the motherfucking tail. You know what I mean? Everybody keeping up with the Joneses, everything. If a guy wears a nice outfit, you call him a fucking strawberry or whatever. You know what I mean? You don't have that shit ain't
Strawberry shortcake.
That shit ain't happening.
That's crazy to me. You see how the whole city think he is strawberry shortcake?
Nobody's going to say that to one another. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to, because they don't give a fuck.
You see, you started.
I think you look great, man.
Thank you.
To be
Thank
honest,
you, Coach.
man, you look great.